Have you ever wondered where the idea for 24-hour news came from at all? Well, after watching Anchorman 2, I'm sure everyone thought to themselves, is this movie entirely made up, or is it based off of real life events? Well, to answer your question, yes. That was the very, very, very over dramatized story of the entertainment and sports programming network as we know it today. In this short span of time, you will learn about how one of the most profitable networks in the world came into existence. Starting from the very beginning of the story, I will take you from where the idea began up until its big reveal. Bill Russman is the co-founder and first president CEO of ESPN. WITTT in Amherst, Massachusetts is where he found his first place in the media world. He then took his talents to Springfield for 8 years as a sports director, followed by 2 years as a news director and evening newscaster. He was responsible for all the play-by-play highlights covered for the sports. In 1974, he took his position as the communications director for the New England Whalers hockey team, who are now called the Carolina Panthers. After the 77-78 season concluded, so did all the jobs for everyone in the front office, including Mr. Russman, when they didn't make it to the playoffs. If anyone's a hockey fan, this is the first year that the Howe Trio debuted. So now jobless, on a very memorable Memorial weekend, he begins to consider his next move. He thinks back to all the frustrations he had on his previous news shows with the amount of time given for the sports coverage. Out of an hour-long news segment, there will only be 3 to 5 minutes available to cover the sports. After talking to a friend, he was sure that sports needed to find itself a new network because you couldn't cover everything in that little bit of time. Only the pro sports got covered. So they gathered a group of Connecticut cable TV owners to see what they thought about the idea as well. So now that we've established his many jobs and his reasoning for why he thinks there need to be another network, let's discuss the steps involved in starting a new network. The original plan was simple. Create a channel dedicated solely to the Connecticut collegiate sports because everything wasn't on the major networks like CBS, NBC, and ABC. So after receiving the suggestion to make the channel a satellite, things began to start coming together for Scott and Bill. Mr. Rasmussen and his son rented out a conference room and met with a man from RCA. RCA is the Radio Corporation of America. Scott decided that the 24-hour package, which nobody had ever bought before, would be the best plan for what they were trying to do. They still didn't have any money, but they decided to go ahead and buy the package at that moment because they saw a clause in the contract that said nobody had to pay anything until after 90 days of the satellite's first use. So with the $9,000 advance on his credit card, money put in from Scott, and helping hands from family, they began looking for investors. They found land in Bristol, Connecticut, where they set up which is now referred to as the ESPN Plaza. By July 14, 1978, the ESP network had officially been incorporated and now needed to be sold to cable companies in order to generate revenue. So it's now August 1978. Bill and Scott are stuck in traffic brainstorming trying to figure out just how they're going to fill 8,760 hours of television programming per year. When Scott says something to the effect of, play football all day for all I care, in a blue Toyota Corolla in traffic on I-84 is where the idea for the famous Sports Center was born, just like an epiphany. Investor after investor still shooting them down because no one thought that a 24-hour network could sustain itself in the news industry, not a single niche channel. 7 rejections in a row, then finally in February of 1979, Getty Oil says yes and agrees to invest. So now with an investor under his belt, Bill began his venture of trying to convince the NCAA, the NFL, and other athletic organizations to get on board with him. Bill had the opportunity to meet with the executive director of the NCAA. Yes, NBC did have the national TV contract, but they only showed the Final Four. ESPN wanted to cover every single game. So now that we understand how hard it is to find somebody to invest in something they don't fully understand or believe, let's discuss the impact ESPN had on the networks. It's September 7th, 1979 at 7 p.m. and ESPN had its first live debut on the air, becoming the nation's first 24-hour news coverage network. 24-hour coverage had never been thought of by any other network at this time. The first NCAA game aired March 30th, Lamar Tech and Weber in the first round. Major League Baseball was in the next big contract that they wanted to land because the Major League Baseball has more games per season than all the other sports combined. But it wasn't until 1990 that the Major League Baseball decided to go ahead and take ESPN up on their offer. The NFL then agreed to give 8 Sunday night slots for football, and the NHL agreed on covering the New England Whalers as well as the Washington Capitol games, giving them a little bit of variety for their channels. So, just to put the time frame in perspective for you guys, it is Larry Bird and Magic Johnson's rookie years. The NBA isn't that large. They're still watching the Shanghai China games versus the NBA All-Star games, which is the reason why the NBA was the last of the 4 networks to join in 2002. So ABC acquired ESPN in 1984, which is why Disney became their owner. These days, ABC is only 4% the value of ESPN. It's over a $50 billion industry, and it's considered the world's most valuable media property by Forbes. It only makes more money than you could ever dream about. It makes more money than all the Disney ventures combined, and Walt Disney is everywhere. ESPN also now has numerous sister channels, some tailored specifically to certain demographics like ESPNU, ESPN Classic, and ESPN News. They have countless other channels as well, multiple locations around the world, over 6,000 employees, as well as over 750 radio affiliates. And they also publish websites. They have everything. The advice that Bill would give to the new entrepreneurs are simply 3 things. The harder you work, the luckier you are. Don't worry about the facts. And don't believe that the current economic climate is a deterrent. These days, Mr. Bill Rasmussen is writing books as well as touring, telling his story of how he created his wonderful industry, taking everyone on his 14-month journey of following the road to success. So with that being said, I'm sure it's clear why Bill Russell is referred to as the father of cable sports by USA Today. So at this point, everyone in the audience should know who the founders of ESPN are. You should know the obstacles that had to be overcome in order to start the network, as well as all the sacrifices made. You should be aware of how much ESPN has grown as a network and continues to grow every day, and even change the sports industry as a whole, becoming more and more innovative, utilizing social media tools, and becoming an international brand. ESPN has came a long way. So thank you so much for listening to my speech today, and I hope that everyone took something away from this. Thank you.